Warmest greetings from Toronto, Canada, to all the distinguished presenters and participants in this wonderful event, Integrative Medicine Today. I would like to express my appreciation for your kind invitation by the Natural History Museum in collaboration with the Romanian Society for the History of Pharmacy, Sibiu section, Romania, that has been organized by Dr. Rosenberg during October 19 to 20th, 2023. I'm honored to be a part of this excellent virtual conference, and I'm delighted to present on the topic of homeopathy, the medical healing art, and a brief overview on the history of homeopathy in honor of the father of homeopathy, Dr. Hahnemann. Please allow me to briefly introduce myself. I'm Dr. Zarin. I have 3 organizations in Canada. I'm the founder of Homeopathy and Nutrition Clinic, founder of Integrative Medicine and Nutrition, a president, dean, and faculty at the Bioquantum Academy, and the founder of International Integrative Medicine Platform, and the head of Homeopathic and Nutritional Sciences Department. I was the leader and director of Canadian National Health Campaign for Health and Healing Movement, and I'm currently chairperson, scientific advisor, and a speaker at the Global Scientific Guild. If you would like to know more about me and our faculty, please visit our website, bioquantum.ca. So as I mentioned earlier, today I'm going to talk about briefly about homeopathy, the medical healing art. I think most of you know about homeopathy, which is a scientific medical art, is a natural healing methodology which treats the person, not the disease. It's a system of medicine that treats all kinds of imbalances, internal disharmony, and illnesses. It's a powerful system of medicine which works with the energy of life and produces genuine long-term cures in all kinds of diseases, from acute to chronic to malignancy. Homeopathic medicine is based on holistic principles, which means that the medicine treats the person, not the disease. This approach does not just treat single symptoms, but removes the internal disease or disharmony from within by removing the underlying causes that create a disease. Homeopathic medicine has laws and principles. Anything that is based on these laws and principles, we can call them homeopathic medicine. If they are the way they prepare the medicine that is a form of deviation from these principles and laws, we cannot call them homeopathic medicine. Homeopathic medicine is prepared and prescribed according to the homeopathic laws and principles, as I mentioned. The very first law is like cures like. And there is another law of dilution and potentization, law of Arnschultz, and also the law of healing direction. We call it Hering's laws. So if I have time, I would explain them one at a time. But these are the most important laws in homeopathy, and also homeopathic case-taking has its own laws, such as totality of symptoms, such as law of proving and law of individualization, miasm, and so many other things that they are part of homeopathy domain. Homeopathic medicine is the second largest system of medicine, and it have been used by millions of people and been prescribed by millions of homeopaths around the world since 200 years ago. Homeopathy is a genius system. I call it genius or intelligent system of medicine that would have definitely been the first system of medicine in the world if the medical market or medical system was not monopolized by pharmaceutical industry and allopathic model from almost 125 years ago. They are applied according to the holistic healing principles and concept of cure. Homeopathic medicine are naturally derived, are safe, gentle, healing, and curative at all levels of physical, mental, and emotional. That's why we call it holistic system of medicine. Homeopathic medicine activating the inner healing power, which is endowed in every single human body by nature. So that the human body is a giant factory of producing medicine within. So homeopathic medicine is activating in that ability and power. It's the healing power which is endowed in every living being by nature. Human ability to heal itself is a gift from nature. This natural healing ability removes the internal disharmony or so-called disease from within, sustain inner harmony, internal balance, homeostasis, and equilibrium in order to restore health. Vital force, the healing power, is like a balloon filled by life energy within us. When it's pressured by any means, hit or hooked by disease factors such as pathogens, internal toxins, external toxins, environmental factors, the vital energy would leak out and causes internal disharmony or disease. Homeopathic medicine patch up the hole and stop the leak from vital force and allow the vital force to repair and back to balance. That's what homeopathy medicine does. They're applied according to holistic healing principle and concept of cure, as I mentioned earlier, and they're naturally derived from nature. So this system must be understood fundamentally by science behind it, which is quantum physics, and also philosophy behind it. As I mentioned earlier, homeopathy treats the person and not the disease. That's why homeopaths do not care much about the medical terms or pathology terms in order to understand the case. All the clinical symptoms or pathological symptoms, they're guiding symptoms for homeopath to gather them as a collective information in order to lead us to understand the person. Every medical system is a mixture of science and art. So homeopathy is a medical healing art as well. To explain the science of homeopathy needs a fundamental understanding of science of quantum physics. I personally have done a thorough research on it and have explained this science behind homeopathy in several global conferences. When it comes to science aspect of homeopathy, is very solid and it can never be changed or modified by any other area of science. But when it comes to the art or philosophy aspect of homeopathy in classical approach, such as totality of symptoms, case-taking, generalities, peculiar symptoms, modality of complaints, such as what makes it better, what makes it worse, mental state or mind symptoms, the general personality of the person, and not really two homeopaths have exactly the same approach. But it works as long as we come up with the best suited remedy for the person. So the skilled homeopaths, they always find the best suited remedy for that individual. So sometimes, I see the person, this way, and other homeopaths sees it another way. But as long as comes up with the best suited and the closest and the most similar remedy to the whole picture of the person, it's amazingly work. So again, because we treat the person and not the disease, that's why the observation could be different. But with the best suited remedy, the result is the same. So I would like to talk about the history of homeopathy a little bit. So the concept of like cures like is not only comes from Dr. Hahnemann. It came from Hippocrates, like before Christian era, which he said, illnesses arise by similar things, and by similar things can the sick be made well. It describes like cures like. And also Paracelsus, the Swiss physician, in 1493 to 1541, he called for return to Hippocrates' principle, like cures like, as a sound rule for prescribing medicine. So like cures like is been thousands and thousands of years ago as major principles for healing. So, but Hahnemann in 1800, who developed the laws of homeopathy based on the concepts that they were prescribed by Hippocrates and Paracelsus thousands of years ago, he developed this system of medicine. So human inner healing concept is unchanging concept, no matter 200 years ago, 1,000 years ago, and it stays the same because human being is the absolute part of nature, and nature does not change its laws and principles. So homeopathy has been the largest established system of medicine to come out of Europe, actually by Dr. Hahnemann. Hahnemann rejected the mainstream medicine allopathy of the late 18th century as irrational and inadvisable because it was largely ineffective and often harmful to his patients. Dr. Hahnemann advocated the use of single drugs at lower doses and promoted an immaterial, vitalistic view of how living organisms function. The term homeopathy was coined by Dr. Hahnemann and first appeared in print in 1807. He also coined the expression allopathic medicine, which was used to refer to traditional Western medicine, and allopath who used to practice it. He was an allopath himself. Then he was converted to homeopathy. As I mentioned, it was the largest established system of medicine come from Europe. And I would like to briefly talk about history of homeopathy in honor of Dr. Hahnemann. As I mentioned, is an intelligent system of medicine. It was conceived in 1796 by German physician Samuel Hahnemann and practitioners called homeopaths, following the concept of when the substance that causes symptoms of the disease in healthy people, it can cure similar symptoms in sick people when that substance is highly diluted and potentized, which is the principles of homeopathy. And that's, it calls like cure like, which is the first law of homeopathy. A substance in a crude form can cause a disease in a healthy person, but the diluted and potentized form of the same substance can remove the disease in a sick person. The founder of homeopathy, Dr. Hahnemann, asserted that the process of succussion activated the vital energy of the diluted substance, and that successive dilutions increases the potency of the homeopathic preparations. So I would like to talk briefly about the prologue of Dr. Hahnemann. He was, as you know, he was the founder of homeopathy. He was a genius. He was gifted in many, many fields. He was a skilled linguistic and translator, was fluent in 7 languages. He was a nutritionist at his time. He was a dietitian in his time who promoted natural diet, food, and healthy lifestyle. You can read all his statements about nutrition and diet and lifestyle in his Organon, the homeopathy medical healing art. And he could be the first psychiatrist who cured mental illnesses with homeopathic medicine, with kindness, compassion, and humanness. He understood the principles of contagious illnesses, the infectious diseases, decades before Koch and Pasteur. He successfully treated the deadly epidemics which ravaged Europe in the first half of 19th century, which I'm going to talk about it. He could be considered even a pioneer of modern public health and sanitation. He understood the paradigm of matter as energy in modern physics, quantum physics. He might not have studied quantum physics, but he completely understood the paradigm of matter as energy. He understood the mind-body emotion connection nearly 2 years ago. 2 centuries ago, sorry about that. He was gone through many financial struggles and obstacles in his medical practice. He was the only person in history of medicine to have visioned a complete system of medicine and then fully developed it into a powerful and practical tool within the span of a single lifetime. He expressed tremendous perseverance in pursuing what he believed to be true. And all the homeopaths around the world are his. disciples and followers. He was courageous with conviction and clarity about the truth. He was born in April 10th, 1755 in Meissen, Saxony, Germany. Was frequently taken out of school due to his family poor financial situation. He helped his own education from age 12 by tutoring his fellow students in Latin and Greek. As I mentioned earlier, he was fluent in many languages. He moved to Leipzig to study medicine. He supported himself by giving private lessons in French and German, translating treatises on medicine, botany, and chemistry. Moved from one location to another location, moved to Vienna, then moved to find a job to a place called Sibiu, Romania, which you are in today. Congratulations. He completed his medical school in Erlangen from a relatively obscure school. He received his medical degree in 1779. He settled down to practice in different villages in Germany. He was on the move all the time. And he gave up his medical practice after 5 years because he admitted that his patients do much better without his help with allopathic medicine. He married to his first wife, Joanna, in 1782 and had 11 children in a row. He supported his family exclusively with writing and translating and in chemistry in Germany from 1785 to 1789. He tried his private practice again, but not enough income for a large growing family. He published many books in chemistry. One of his most important publishing was arsenic poisoning. He again moved to Leipzig with his family and published a treatise on syphilis and his prescription of mercury called Hahnemannian soluble mercury. His colleagues called him quack, as we are very familiar with this term that is all the homeopaths around the world being called. And due to his homeopathic view, his growing family hardly survived on his little earning, and they lived in a terrible circumstances. He started establishing a medical practice in early 1784, but the medical community rejected and ridiculed him because he was in the verge of converting from allopathy to homeopathy, and the medical community back then was completely against him. He had to stay up all nights doing translation work, which was his family's main source of income. He kept pursuing his passion, researching for more effective method of healing during the day. In 1791, a turning point in the development of his thoughts happened. He realized the limitation and degree of the allopathic medicine, but he had no good alternative to offer. There was an ignite in Dr. Hahnemann in 1791 while translating Collins' Materia Medica. Collins attributed the anti-malaria properties in cinchona bark, from which called quinine is made from, to its bitterness and astringent properties. Dr. Hahnemann knew that other bitter herbs are not active against malaria. So he started examining the cinchona bark on himself, and he developed the same symptoms as malaria. That was an ignite and turning point in Dr. Hahnemann's life and medical practice. So this discovery changed the world. This discovery changed the whole medical system around the world. So he discovered the first law of homeopathy, like cures like, started making his own homeopathic medicine, but pharmacists and medical community back then brought action against him. He was sued by the pharmacists and allopaths at his time. So allopaths and pharmacists won the case, and he was prohibited to dispense his own homeopathic medicine. Until 1800, that scarlet fever epidemic, happened in Europe, and that was an opportunity for him to demonstrate effectiveness of his law of similar concept of high dilution and the principle of potentized doses. For a scarlet fever epidemic, he used belladonna in homeopathic form, but he was attacked again by pharmacists and allopathic community, but he provided belladonna to all his patients and people around him for free during this epidemic. In 1820, he published the first edition of Organon of the Medical Art, his most important work, which is, I would call it all homeopaths' Bible. His work was done based on homeopathic principles, law of similar, single potentized medicine, minute dose, and proven remedy. He was not supported by the mainstream, as homeopathy also is not supported by mainstream now, but he proved many remedies on himself, his family members, his friends, associates, disciples, and they called them Provers' Union. In 1813, typhus epidemic happened again and affected Napoleon's soldiers after their invasion of Russia. He treated them again successfully and cured the first stage of infection by homeopathic medicine, Bryonia and Rostox, and he achieved huge success. But he was again attacked by pharmacists to stop his homeopathic practice and dispensing his homeopathic medicine. We see this in my country as well, and any remedies that works is discontinued. So during the past more than 2 decades of my practice, and a lot of great homeopathic remedies, especially no-salt, have been discontinued. So in 1820, Leipzig City Council ordered Hahnemann to stop his homeopathic practice completely. So in 1821, Hahnemann was forced to move to Cothen-Anhalt. So it's the place that I went to visit Hahnemann's house, and I have some pictures to show you in future slides. He was protected by the Duke Ferdinand of Anhalt-Cothen. The Duke was one of his patients. That's why he allowed him to practice as a doctor and dispense his homeopathic medicines. Dr. Hahnemann practiced under the Duke's protection for 12 years in peace and harmony. He settled in Cothen-Anhalt. He developed his idea in peace and quiet under that protection. And the patients around Europe, they traveled to visit him from all over. And his practice flourished. In 1828, he developed the chronic diseases and the concept of miasms. The pseudo-homeopaths were against him again, against his development of chronic diseases, and his book was much delayed to be published. He went through so much challenges, hardships, but he had so much perseverance, so much confidence, so much courage to stand up for the truth. That's why he is in the right side of history. In 1831, another epidemic happened in Europe, cholera from Russia. Homeopathy triumphed again because allopathic medicine was helpless against the virus. Dr. Hahnemann used camphor, coprum, veratrum, the top 3 remedies for cholera. In 1833, the first homeopathic hospital was opened in Leipzig under the direction of Dr. Moritz Müller. Dr. Müller needed Dr. Hahnemann to help him to establish this hospital. And for 1 year, Dr. Hahnemann was cooperating with Dr. Müller, and they established the hospital. Then he remarried to one of his patients, a young French woman, Melanie, and left to Paris in 1835. He started enjoying his new life and started practicing homeopathy again at the age of 80. And then he developed LM potency and finished the 6th edition of Organon, because up to fifth edition of organon, Dr. Henneman worked mostly with CH potencies and M. So LM was developed when he was almost 80 years. And so practically I follow his CH potency and M potency. And there are a lot of homeopaths that they work with different potencies around the world. And but LM potency is the newest potentized and the newest dilution of in Hahnemann practice. And but still a lot of homeopaths around the world, working with LM potencies. Dr. Hahnemann died in 1843 when he was 88 years old. So when I went to Germany, we were many homeopaths around the world, and we all gathered every day for almost 10 days in Hahnemann's office, and practically was a palace. And so it was amazing to see how he practiced. And I went to his office, which in the slide on the right, he had a big cupboard, in his room. And the box that you see in front of me, it was full of remedies from his time, still is preserved by the palace. And so we had so many discussions with the different homeopaths around the world who follow Hahnemannian practice. It was an amazing time to see how Hahnemann lived for 12 years under protection of the Duke of the Cotten-Anhalt. And then, Hahnemann has a statue in the backyard of the palace. It was beautiful to see, and it was beautiful area around, the palace to go and have lunch and everything. So it was a great time. We had great time in Cotten-Anhalt, and it was such a great memory for all homeopaths. And I highly recommend to all homeopaths to go and visit Dr. Hahnemann's office and house, the way he lived for the past 12 years of his life. So I don't know if I have time, but I'm going to quickly mention about go through the law of prescribing homeopathy, that it has to be based on like cures like, based on proving single remedy at a time. But if there is a homeopath in the house, the single remedy at a time that Dr. Hahnemann said, it does not mean that you cannot use another homeopathic medicine in 4 or 5 hours during the day. So there are times that I personally, I'm a Hahnemannian practitioner, but there are times that I practice Kentian as well. So I may just give 2 or 3 different remedies throughout the day, but not at the same time. That's what exactly Hahnemann said, not at the same time. So individualization is the key to understand the homeopathic case, because we treat the person, we don't treat the disease. And also miasm, the tendency, the predisposition, and the genetic imprints of the person, it plays a huge role as well here. So it's a lot of details in homeopathy. If you really want to be a good, great homeopathic practitioners, you have to follow all these laws and principles. So there is a science behind homeopathy to prove that homeopathy is not placebo. Homeopathy is a genius system of medicine. I don't know if I have time to explain it, but so I have a video on YouTube that I talk about the science of homeopathy, that how the higher dilution, the more potent it becomes. Because even for myself, when I was at the school, was a dilemma. I was so puzzled by this. How come there is no particle and nothing in substance, but it becomes more potent and becomes, more powerful? So quantum physics explains it, because it's not based on particles, it's based on waves, it's based on the orbitals and the level, the count of electrons on each orbitals in higher dilutions. So quantum physics explains how the way the universe behaves at the scale of atoms, at subatomic scale, electrons and protons. Quantum physics is a fundamental theory in physics that provides a description of the physical properties of nature at the scale of atoms and subatoms, particles which does not exist as particle. but exist as waves. That's the main aspect of my talk in science of homeopathy. So quantum physics explains it, that particles in high dilution turns to waves, that the wave carries all the information of the original substances in crude form, and it works and it does the job. So quantum physics is the study of matter and energy at the most fundamental level. It aims to uncover the properties and behaviors of the very building blocks of nature. So when we understand that, we definitely understand how homeopathy works. So homeopathic medicine coming from natural domains in nature, like mineral domains, such as Calcarea carbonica, Argentum nitricum, plumbum, Arsenicum album, comes from plant kingdom, such as Pulsatilla, Lycopodium, Nox vomica, China, animal kingdom like Apis, Lechesis, Sepia, Lecanium, and comes from diseased tissues. We call it nosol, that it's used in homeopathic immunizations, and from healthy tissues, that's sarcodes. We call it organotherapy in homeopathy, and comes now, as the other area of science, homeopathy also evolving. So new homeopathic remedies coming from magnet, from X-ray, and from some other substances in nature. So principles of homeopathic preparation, that it has to follow these principles: trituration, succussion, dilution, and potentization. So dilution and potentization is a dual action that is called, dual action of succussion and dilution called potentization. So without this, we cannot have homeopathic medicine. We have to follow all of this. So trituration has its own reasons. Succussion also, that is releasing the energy from the matter, and potentization starts with succussion. Homeopathic medicine are made from plant, mineral, and animal sources, which called original substance in crude form. This is starting materials is diluted and then undergoes intense shaking or succussion. Often the substances used to make homeopathic remedies are toxic at undiluted concentrations. And they vigorously shake the original substance with alcohol or water to activate and potentize the substance. So then again, dilution. Most of homeopaths, as far as I know, they work with centesimal, like CH dilution. And from 1C to, the most common type is CH dilution. The 1C is obtained by mixing 1 part of the mother tincture with 9 parts of water or ethanol in a new vial, and then vigorously shaking and the solution to make 1 in 10 dilution. So we go up more potent, the more diluted, the more potent. We go to 4x, 4D, 4x and D are the same. We go to CH. CH starts from 6CH, 12CH, 30CH, 200CH. Then we go to 1M, 10M, 50M, and then we go to LM. The more diluted, the more waves, not particles. So that's the key for homeopaths to understand the difference between the dilutions. The lower dilution, you're closer to the particles. The higher dilution, closer to the waves. So liberating the essence, as I mentioned earlier, this mechanism of shaking changes the process from being merely a dilution to being an energetic or vibrational enhancement. It's a method of liberating the essence of substance from its original form. So this is a periodic table of physics. It's completely different than chemistry. Because periodic table of chemistry, it's been around for centuries, sorry, for decades, but the physics, I can say maybe about a century, but this is it's our guiding periodic table for homeopaths to understand what particle is, what the dilution, including particles, what's dilution, including waves. There is a grand state, which call it particle state, according to the physics, as I mentioned, as I showed it to you, according to the periodic table on physics, 5F is a grand or particle state, means you can still detect particles. But beyond 5F, it's beyond 5F, you cannot find any particles. It's called wave state. So for 5F is the grand state, is the lowest energy shell, according to quantum physics. But above 5F, it's a wave state, which is the highest energy orbital. So Avogadro's number of units in 1 mole of any substance, defined as its molecular weight in grams, equal to this number that you can see. There is no particle beyond Avogadro's number. Before Avogadro's number, you still can detect. So, but beyond that Avogadro's number, there you cannot find any particles. So the unit may be electrons, atoms, ions, or molecules, depending on the nature of the substance and the character of the reaction. So I would like to go to the homeopathic medicine that is not a placebo. If the other branches of science are deficient in understanding the science of homeopathy, which is quantum physics, they cannot make a wrong claim against homeopathy. Homeopathic medicine retain the original substance and nano-sized particle in a form of waves, despite being diluted beyond Avogadro's number. Water has memory and carries information of original substance in homeopathic medicine. Water behaves differently according to the way it's programmed, energized, or charged, the way homeopathic medicine is made. Science of quantum physics can explain the principles and efficacy of homeopathy. So, as I mentioned earlier, homeopathic case taking has its own rules and principles, the totality of symptoms, to take the generalities, peculiar system, in order to come up with the constitutional remedies. The constitutional remedies is based on the totality of symptoms of the patient and the characteristics of the remedies. They have to match and to always come up with the best suited remedies to the totality of symptoms of the patients. So I would like to talk about the direction of healing, that we call it Hering's law. Direction of healing is, it's very helping. It has helped me in my practice, but not necessarily it works in acute cases. It mostly works in chronic cases, as I observed. And always the direction of healing is from upward downward, from within outward, and from more important organs that they select, such as brain and heart, to less organs such as the skin. Symptoms disappearing in the reverse order of their appearance. Last symptoms goes first. So this is a law of hearings that I personally, witnessed it in many cases in my practice. And also the law of Arndt-Schultz law, that a small dose stimulates. That's what is homeopathy is based on. Always give the minimum dose, and because with homeopathic medicine, we just want to stimulate the vital force of the patient. So a small dose stimulates, moderate dose can inhibit, and large dose can destroy. This Arndt-Schultz law is in any pharmacy. They use it, in any preparations, no matter is allopathic or homeopathic, but homeopathic is using a small dose to stimulate the vital force. So homeopathy achieved its greatest after Europe. Homeopathy moved to North America and Canada. So it has a very sad story also in Canada. The same challenges and hardship that Dr. Honeyman went through in Europe, almost all homeopaths have gone through in North America and Canada. So homeopathy achieved its greatest popularity in the 19th century. It was introduced to the United States in 1825, and the first American homeopathic school opened in 1835. Throughout the 19th century, dozens of homeopathic institutions appeared in Europe and the United States almost at the same time. During this period, homeopathy was able to appear relatively successful when other forms of treatment could be harmful and ineffective. By the end of the 19th century, the practice began to wane, with the last exclusively homeopathic medical school in the United States closing in 1920, when pharmaceutical industry monopolized the global medical system. But during the 1970s, homeopathy made a significant comeback, with sales of some homeopathy products increasing tenfold in North America. It was a rise and a new movement against synthetic drugs and medications and in favor of homeopathy. So it's not too long, 1970. So there are many, many great homeopaths, such as Boyne-Gelsen, the father of repertory, and all the homeopaths know him. He was a lawyer as well. He was a German civil servant. He was agriculturist. He was botanist, physician, and pioneer in the field of homeopathy. And the first repertory was written by him. So all of them, they were MDs, and Dr. Boyne-Gelsen also. And in 1827, Boyne-Gelsen contracted tuberculosis, followed by an incurable lung disease. But he couldn't treat himself with allopathic medication. His botanical friend, Wayne, MD, who was a homeopathic physician, prescribed him pulsatilla, which cured him completely of his diseases, and thus became a firm believer in homeopathy and converted to homeopathic physicians. So almost all the homeopaths back then, even Dr. Herring, even Dr. Kent, they're all MDs. So the father of American homeopathy, Dr. Herring, which he created the healing directions. So all of them, they have major writings. Herring's had a materia medica and guiding symptoms, a structure of guiding symptoms, and a lot of different writings. So he also has a writing on direction of healing and Herring's principles as well. So in one, literature say the father of American is Dr. Herring. In some other literature say Dr. Kent is the father of homeopathy, but Dr. Kent is the father of modern homeopathy in United States. So Dr. Lippe also is American, outstanding American homeopath. So he has major writings. One of the major ones is What is Homeopathy? Dr. James Tyler Kent, also, as I mentioned earlier, is a father of American modern homeopathy. Kentian method of homeopathy is different than Hahnemannian's, but he did not violate the Hahnemannian principles, but he followed his own art of homeopathy, because every homeopath has their own creation in regards to art of homeopathy. But he was a great homeopath. I have all his books. And so the Kentian prescription, you can go up to, several remedies during the day, but not at the same time. That's why I said he did not violate the Hahnemannian principles. So another, Dr. Allen, American homeopaths, he had major writings such as Pure Materia Medica, and also Dr. Alan Carson, American homeopaths. He has major writings on textbook of Materia Medica, elementary textbook of Materia Medica. Another American homeopath, Dr. Borica, also has major writing. One of the major writings that I really love is the 12 tissue salts, the Schussler salts. He wrote it in 1888. When you read it, you see there is no difference. So the science of homeopathy remains untouched, unmodified, and the same. Also, Dr. Clark, which was the UK homeopath, as far as I know, and Great Britain, but I think he moved to United States. And also Dr. Bagger has a major writings on additions to Kent's repertory. He was very Kentian, Dr. Bagger. And so many different homeopaths, like Dr. Balford was a father and son. They, I think, dedicated themselves, dedicated their homeopathic practice into new provings. A lot of new provings they did, and they kind of contributed so much to homeopathy in North America. So we go to Dr. Aaron's Vermeulen, which is the it's from Holland, and he put almost 7 different Materia Medica from all those American homeopaths in one Materia Medica. We call it concordant Materia Medica, which the Materia Medica that I studied at the school with. There are almost 7, Materia Medica in one. So there is no one miss anything when you have this Materia Medica in your hand. So, and also he wrote a Prisma. It's another book from Dr. Aaron Vermeulen. And Dr. Robin Murphy also is just, we lost him 2 years ago in 2021. He wrote Materia Medica. He wrote repertory. The medical repertory is the one that I studied at the school. And I always say I owe him so much, because without him, I could not be a homeopath. So, and unfortunately, we lost him 2 years ago. So the Lute's Materia Medica is one of his, great piece of art that I think all homeopaths should have that. And also homeopathic medical repertory is the one. It's a modern alphabetical repertory. Is very, very helpful for new homeopaths to have this. So also one of my professors, Dr. Shepard, he's still, thankfully he's alive. He's in United States, and I used to study with him. He was coming to Toronto University of Toronto, and teaching us. He wrote an amazing book, Hahnemann Revisited, which I have all his books, and mostly, he's following the 6th edition of Hahnemann. So it's LM potency. But even though I don't practice LM potency, but I'm a big, follower of Dr. Shepard. He's amazing homeopath. So it's another book that he wrote. And also, we shouldn't forget Dr. Wittikoss, that his contribution to homeopathy is astonishing. And he wrote many books, such as Materia Medica Viva. It's an amazing piece of art. And also Dr. Rogers Morrison and his desktop, and the 2 books that he wrote, I have them all. The desktop comparison, everywhere I go, I have Dr. Morrison books with me, and it's such a great, amazing help with homeopaths that we do not want to carry a lot of books with us. It's just he summarized all the Materia Medica in these 2 books. And thank you so much for everybody's attention. And again, I would like to thank Dr. Rosenberg, and he's a core faculty and the head of Department of Phytotherapy and Medicinal Herb at Bioquantum Academy. And thanks to the Natural History Museum and also Romanian Society for the History of Pharmacy for your kind invitation. And just would like to say that Bioquantum Academy is offering international integrative medicine platform to all the practitioners, whoever listening to this, and please visit our website and see what we are offering. So thank you so much, everyone.